do you guys a kid?
Sounds good. Just one though.
Just one. Just one for now. All right, so I'm gonna start off at the income. All right, Nate. Now the first question is, what is your primary income? You know, what is your take-home pay? And the reason I asked that question is the program is designed to take into account about 3.5% of your net income. Meaning, like, if you put aside $3.50 at every $100 that you took home, would that take food off your table?
Not really.
Would that change your lifestyle in any way, shape, or form?
No.
Right? Because you would agree with me that we spend some money some frivolous ways, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I know myself, like, I go literally to Quick Check, like maybe 3-4 times a week, maybe once a day. And I get anything like from a Red Bull to like to a sandwich to a pack of gum, you know what I mean, without thinking twice about it. I probably spend maybe $4 or $5 a day there. So even if I just do that $4 a day, let's say it's $4, and I do that 5 times a week while I'm in the office, that's $20 a week. That's $80 a month I'm spending on Quick Check, really without thinking twice about it. Would you agree that you do something like that?
And probably just coffee alone.
The coffee alone? How many coffees do you get a day?
At least 2.
At least
sometimes
2?
3.
Wow.
Yeah. Big coffee guy.
And how many days a week do you do that? Do you take days off, or you do that how many days?
Usually weekdays, but sometimes on the weekend too.
Okay. How much does a cup of coffee cost you?
About $2.
$2.
Yeah.
So how many coffees a week would you say you're doing?
Maybe 12.
12. So how much is that a week that you're spending on coffees?
$25.
$25. So how much is that a month?
Yeah. Over 100.
So you're spending $100 a month on coffees,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do you think twice before you swipe the card?
Not at all.
Do you call your financial advisor and say, hey, can I spend $100? No, you just spend it because you want to, right?
Absolutely.
So that's exactly why we want to do this. We don't want to take food off your table. We want to be able to design a program that's going to help protect your family. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what would you say is your take-home pay?
Probably about 3,000.
3,000. Okay, cool. All right. And Cindy, what's your take-home pay?
My take-home pay, $1,500 a month.
Okay. All right, so you guys bring home $4,500 together. Now, Nate, what is your? Do you have any coverage through your current employer, like that you have?
Absolutely, yeah. 15,000, I think.
Okay, awesome. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had insurance through an employer before?
No.
No, this is your first time.
Yeah.
Okay. It's gonna sound silly. Let me ask you a question. If you went to your boss's office tomorrow morning, right, and then you punched him in the face and then quit the job, right? What do you think would happen to that insurance?
I think it'd be gone, right?
Right? Think about it. Like, if you no longer work for that employer and then you died 3-4 years later, why would they pay your family any money? Right? Does that make any sense whatsoever? Right? So I just wanted to explain that's how the work coverage works. Like, it's there, it's good that you have it, but when you leave that job or retire, it's eventually going to go away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you have that $15,000 policy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Cindy, do you have anything through your job?
Yeah, the same.
Same
actually.
15,000?
Yeah,
Okay.
just through them.
All right. Hey, anything's better than nothing. Now, do you guys have any insurance that you own and control and pay for yourself?
Yeah, actually, I have a policy on myself.
Okay. Do you know if it's whole life term or?
I just know it was a good price.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know what the face amount is?
I think it was for $100,000.
$100,000. And if you mind me asking, how much did you pay for it?
It's like 20 something a month.
20 something a month. Okay. My best that would be term. How long ago did you buy it?
How long was that? Maybe 5 years.
5 years ago. Do you remember them saying anything about like a length of time, like a term, like 20 years, 30 years, or anything?
They told me I could keep it through life.
Keep it through life. Do you remember them saying any time frame?
No, I don't
Okay.
remember. It's a while ago.
All right. Main question: what was the major purpose of buying that policy? Like, what were you looking to cover?
Final expenses, that sort of thing, I guess.
Okay. So you wanted to make sure that if you passed away, that there was money there for your
Right.
funeral.
If I die, something could, with her income, she might be able to support the family. So.
Okay. All right. So you wanted to make sure you just had money there, maybe cover their income, things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. That's a great reason to get that insurance. Okay. Now, Cindy, do you have any coverage for yourself?
No,
Nothing.
nothing.
Okay. So you guys didn't buy it when you did. So you made sure that he was covered. Were you working at the time?
Was she working at the time? I don't think so.
Okay, so maybe that was the main reason because he was the breadwinner, so you wanted to just make sure you got him protected.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. That's a good reason to get insurance. All right. Now you guys rent or own?
We own.
You own?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you have left on your mortgage?
About $240,000.
Okay, $240,000. And how many years left?
About 24 years.
24 years left. Okay, cool. And do you have any money put aside for your kids' education?
No, we haven't done
No,
that.
haven't done it. Okay. Checking savings?
Checking.
Checking, awesome. All right, I'm gonna skip the medical questions, and that's very simple.
Maybe you have to ask her the medical.
Oh, goodness.
Just want to get down to the meat of it. Anybody can just ask those questions. All right. Now we're gonna talk about a final expense protection. Okay. Let me ask you guys a question. Have you guys ever been responsible for handling a funeral for a loved one before?
I haven't.
No? Okay. I assume you guys have been to a funeral before at some point in your lives. Okay. When was the last funeral that you went to?
My grandmother's back when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
15, almost 20 years now.
Okay. So I'm assuming then you don't really know much or remember much of what happened. And
Just
and
remember my
everything.
mom being, super busy and,
Yeah.
upset all the time.
Were you aware if they had life insurance or anything like that to handle that funeral, or
I don't know.
don't know? Okay. All right. And so you've never been to one?
My father passed away when I was 15, but the same thing. I was young, so
Okay.
I was kept behind doors.
Gotcha. Okay, which is a good thing. You don't want to experience
Yeah.
that. Let me ask you a serious question now. Sinya, if you were to drive to the grocery store tomorrow, which I assume you go to the grocery store here and there?
Of course.
Okay. If you're going to the grocery store tomorrow morning and you get into a car accident and die, who's paying for your funeral?
That's a good question.
Guess I would have to.
Yeah.
Right? That you would be paying for that. Do you have any idea how much an average funeral costs nowadays?
No.
All right, the average funeral cost is going to talk about this is about $15,000 is an average funeral cost. Okay, so again, think about this logically and a real serious question, and you can figure out this. If she died tomorrow morning in that car accident, you would be stuck paying for that funeral, correct?
Yeah.
Now, Cindy, would you want Nate to have to pay $15,000 for your funeral?
Of course not.
Right, because that could be money you guys are saving for the kid's education, for your kid to go to college, and now he's got to come out of you guys' savings. That's if you do have it. I'm not going to say whether you do or don't. It's your guys' business.
Yeah.
But would you want him to have to take that out?
No, of course not.
Okay.
It's something we don't think about.
Now, Nate, you have that policy. It's $100,000. Now, to be honest, it's probably a term policy. Okay, for $20 a month just from doing this, it's really not going to be anything other than a term policy. So at some point, that is going to end. If you can get your policy later on, I'll look at it and show you. But it's going to end at some point. I would assume it's a 30-year policy. You bought it for 5 years, so maybe you have 25 years left. And how old are you now?
I'm 28.
You're 28 years old, so that's going to be done when you're 53 years old. Okay? Would you agree that most likely you're going to live past 53?
I hope so.
Right? At least statistically, you're going to do that. Right? Now, let's say at 55 years old, you have a massive heart attack. That term policy ends, it's gone. You have a massive heart attack at 55 years old. Now you have no coverage. Who's going to be stuck paying for your funeral?
Oh, I guess just anyone.
All right. Now, same thing. Would you want your wife to have to pay, whether you had the money or not, would you want her to have to take money and pay for your funeral like that?
No, of course not.
Now, let's just say best case scenario, right? Most likely you guys aren't going to die in a car accident tomorrow and you're not going to die of a heart attack at 55 years old, but you would agree that you're going to die at some point, correct?
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
I'm going to go, you're going to go at some point. Statistically, Nate's going to die first because he's the husband. Just statistically, okay? So let's say he dies at 80 years old. You live a couple more years. You live to 85 years old, okay? You never buy any insurance. You have nothing just like you have now. You die at 85 years old. He's gone. Who's going to be stuck paying for the funeral?
I am.
No, you're dead.
I'm dead too.
Yes.
Who's going to be stuck? Who's going to be stuck? Your children. Now, your son, who's 4 years old right now, at that point is going to be in his 60s, looking to retire. Would you want him to have to come out of his own pocket? As your last living memory, he's got to come out of his own pocket to pay for your funeral. Would you want to have that?
No.
No, of course not. So this is going to talk about having a final expense protection in place to make sure that when both of you die, because you're going to die at some point, whether it be in that car accident tomorrow or the heart attack at 50 or when you're 90 years old and you lived a long, healthy life and a full life, you're going to go at some point. It's to make sure that if you die, he's not stuck paying for it and vice versa, or worst case, your kids or grandkids aren't stuck coming out of their own pocket, which again, you guys said you wouldn't want, correct?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So here's a video going to talk about that. Show the video. All right. Now, just to recap it, Nate, do you remember what they said an average funeral cost is nowadays?
I think the video said 14,000.
Yeah, 14 grand, which I called 15 grand, just kind of round up. Do you remember what it said it's going to be in the next 20 years?
Over 30,000.
Over 30,000.
Yeah.
Now, just think about this. Think about we're around the same age. Think about what movie prices were when we first started going to movies, right? $4, $5. Now they're $11, right? 13 for like an IMAX movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say gas because gas
That's not
changes,
even
but
counting popcorn.
yeah. So like $50 to go take your kid to the movies. Think about everything increases over time. So will funerals. They increase about 4% a year. So the same $15,000 funeral 50 years ago was maybe like $2,000. And you get what I'm saying? And then in 50 years from now, an average funeral cost is kind of going to be 50, 60, 70 grand. Not relative to today's money, just like you could have bought a house. You ask your parents what they bought their first house for, your grandparents what they bought their first house for. They'll tell you they bought it for 20 grand, and now that house is worth 300 grand. You get what I'm saying? So the money's kind of always the same. So right now, you guys have nothing in place to cover your funeral. Okay, you have that term policy, like you said, that's going to go away. You guys have nothing in place to cover the upfront funeral. Plus, even if you have that $100,000, we went over the freedom of choice certificate paying the funeral cost immediately. You know, if you were to die tomorrow, how long do you think it would take for that policy to pay out?
Wow, I never even thought about that. I assumed it would be right away.
All right. Legally, insurance companies have 30 days to 40 days to pay a claim. Every policy has a 2-year contestability period. There's different things. It's not as simple as like you die and then you just fork over 100 grand to your wife. There's different things they have to do to involve with it. Where legally, the funeral director you have to pay for the funeral. Like you can't just not pay for this. You can't bury him in the backyard. Like, you know what I mean? Like he has to get buried within a certain period of time. And it's going to cost money. So a lot of times people have to pay for the funeral up front and then wait for 2 months for the policy to kind of pay itself out. It happened when my grandma died a couple of years ago. It took literally 11 months for my dad and his sisters to get all the assets together, because she had life insurance policies from 1933. You know what I mean? So like to get all that together, bank account, savings, close on the house, sell the house, do everything to get the assets and split it. It took 11 months. So my dad had to pay for the cremation up front, $7,000, and then wait for the 11 months to kind of get reimbursed. So the freedom of choice will cover the upfront funeral costs so that your family doesn't have to worry about that. So again, right now you have nothing in place, meaning again, if your wife died tomorrow in that car accident going to the grocery store, you are stuck paying $15,000 for that funeral, which again, you said you wouldn't want, correct?
Of course.
Okay, and then we want to make sure that your funeral is covered in the future, because again, even if you had that term policy, it's most likely not going to come out in time, so you want to have something in place to make sure that that's covered, so then that $100,000 can go for what you wanted to do. So we're going to say the need right now is about $30,000. Again, that just covers the next 20 years. You guys are most likely going to outlive that. I can show you that a little bit later, what it would cost to get a little bit more, but for right now, we're saying the needs at least $30,000 to cover that funeral cost. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
Okay, does that make sense, Nate?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, this is going to talk about having a monthly income protection in place. And again, I'll ask you a serious question. You guys both work now. I'd assume because you both work that you both need each other's income to continue to live in the lifestyle that you guys live, right? Or else maybe you wouldn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, Nate is the main breadwinner. Now, you have that $100,000 policy, and I commend you for having it. But again, let's talk real numbers here. If you die tomorrow in a car accident, driving to work, you driving the Parkway?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, how many cross signs do you see on the Parkway every 10 miles? There's a cross sign from somebody who died driving to work. Do you think that person planned on that happening?
No.
Right? The things happen. So you have $100,000. Let's just say that you died in that car accident, okay? How much is going to go towards the funeral?
I guess the 30,000.
Right, or 15 right now, right?
Oh yeah. Right.
So if 15 is gone from that, how much is left at 100?
85.
85. Let me ask you a real question. How long do you think $85,000 will last your wife?
With our mortgage and bills, maybe 2 years tops.
Right, if she's losing your income of what, was it $3,000 a month?
Yeah.
That's $36,000 a year. You have about maybe 2 years and a couple months covered of your income. And your son is 4 years old. So that means you have your son covered up until about age 6. Now what? Could you continue to pay the bills on $1,500 a month?
Downsize.
Right?
Of course not.
So then what? Then you got to try to sell the house and downsize maybe to a lower income area.
Yes.
Your kid's about to go to grade school and everything like that. Would you want to have to take your kid out of the school system that he's going to go to? Would you want to put him in a bad neighborhood?
No.
Of course not.
Of course not. So you didn't think about that when you bought that $100,000 policy, and I commend you for getting it. A lot of times people don't really think this fully through. There's like, oh, I have $100,000 covered, you know, and you kind of assume that you're okay,
Sounded like a lot.
but it's really not. When you really boil it down to where these numbers are going to go, they say you need at least 3 to 5 times worth of your salary, at least bare minimum, just to cover to make sure. Because then what about going to college later on in life? So this is going to talk about having a final extent protection in place for both of you, because I assume, again, if your wife died in that car accident going to the grocery store, besides not having $15,000 to pay for that, you've now got to replace her $1,500 worth of income, right? You still got to pay for daycare, you got to pay for all this stuff, so I assume it's still going to be a financial hit for you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So this is going to talk about having a final extent protection in place for both of you to make sure that either one of you died in that car accident tomorrow, that you have enough money coming in to continue to live the lifestyle that you're living right now, and your kid can stay in the same school, and you live in the same house, and have the same lifestyle that you would want, which I assume both of you guys would want, correct?
Yes,
Okay, awesome.
absolutely.
Money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, now to recap this, they're going to recommend at least 5 years worth of both of your incomes Okay, existing right now, and counting the work stuff, just because you guys are currently working, they're gonna count that. Right now, Nate, you have $115,000 worth of existing coverage. Okay, if everything goes the correct way, that would be what your max coverage payout would be. So you need at least another $65,000 of coverage to give you 5 years worth of your income. So that way, that if you died in that car accident tomorrow, your wife has 5 years worth of your income to then figure out a new situation. Maybe that gives her time to locate to a different area or whatever it may be. That gives her 5 years worth of that stuff, which that makes sense, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then for your wife as well, she's gonna have 5 years worth of her income covered. Right now, she only has the job coverage. That's again if you happen to die while you're working there. But best case scenario, you have 15 grand. So the need's gonna be an additional $75,000 for you to make sure that again, if you died in that car accident tomorrow, you're not leaving your son, with Nate with no money. Which again, you wouldn't want to do that, obviously, correct?
No, I would not.
Okay, obviously not. So this all makes sense to you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Now, just to recap everything for you, again, what we're going to do is cover both your funeral costs to make sure that, Nate, if you died in that car accident tomorrow, that you have $15,000 or $30,000 of coverage to cover that upfront funeral cost, the immediate thing, so that way that $100,000 can go for what you wanted to do. Correct? Remember, so that way you're not taking from that and then not having anything. And we're going to cover Cynthia's $15,000 or $30,000 funeral. Make sure if she dies on going to the grocery store tomorrow morning, that you're not stuck coming out of your own pocket for that, which again, Cindy, you said you wouldn't want, correct?
I would not want it to.
Okay. And then we're also going to cover both your incomes to make sure that either one of you dies, that you have about 5 years worth of your income replaced. So that way you have enough money to continue to live in this house and pay the bills and have your son go to the same school system and everything like that, which you both said you would want, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Now, last couple things. One, do you understand everything that I just went over with you?
I do.
You do?
Yes.
You understand? Okay.
Makes sense.
Does this all make sense to you?
Yeah.
Make sense? Make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay, awesome. The last question I have then is which plan do we want to start with today? Option A is going to cover the inflation rate for the funeral for $30,000 plus give you your income protection. All right. Do you want to cover plan B, which is going to do the non-inflation and also cover your income, please? And which plan do you guys want to start with today?
Well, I don't plan on dying for a while, so probably option A.
Option A?
Option
It would, yeah, how much would that be?
Okay. Well, it's down here. It'll be $130 a month.
Oh,
A. It's pretty high, huh?
it seems like a little more than I was expecting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you a question. Everything does make sense, right?
Yes, it makes sense.
You do see the value in having this, correct?
Of course.
Okay, great. Let me ask you a real question. Now I sing you. If you were to die tomorrow, what is your biggest concern?
My children. Yes, my child.
Okay, so you would say maybe leaving money
And my
behind for them
husband, yes.
and your husband as well. Okay, great. Can I make a recommendation for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. So you guys do see the value. It's really just the money thing. The 130 is
I
a little
do see
little
the
shaky.
value,
You see
but
the value?
130 a month to add
A little
one
high?
more bill. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
I understand
high.
that.
But it all makes sense to me.
Okay. Again, I want to make sure this is comfortable
Yeah.
for both of you.
Yeah.
All right. So let me work my magic here with you a little bit.
Okay.
All right, and this is going to be a starting point. And then you can adjust it to find something comfortable for you guys. All right. Now, this is what I'm going to recommend for you guys. Now, obviously, you both need coverage to cover your funeral, correct? You guys
Yes.
both understand that?
Right.
The bare minimum you're going to need is about $15,000. So what I would recommend for you, Nate, is $15,000 worth of whole life to cover your upfront funeral costs. So again, if you died in that car accident, then that $15,000 can go immediately for the funeral. Then $100,000 can go out to pay for your wife for all the other stuff.
Okay.
What I would also recommend is some ADB, which is accidental death benefit. Now, you would agree with me that if you probably die within the next 20 years or so, it's most likely going to be an accident, correct? I mean,
Yeah,
statistically, you're
yeah.
28 years old. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the odds of you dying from any other reason are very slim. You're not gonna have a heart attack at 33 years old, just statistically, right? It'll be from a car accident or something like that. So you can get an additional $200,000 of coverage for only $16 a month for ADB, which is basically if you were to die in that car accident, they would pay out an additional $200,000. There's even more coverage than I showed you before through the term policy, but that would be, it makes more sense to me to cover you with that as far as cost effective. Now I would say do both, but for cost effective reasons, I would say to do that, okay? And then we're still gonna cover your kid for $10,000 under the child rider. And then for Cynthia, we'll cover her for $15,000. So again, if she dies in that car accident tomorrow, you're not stuck paying for that funeral bill, and we'll give her the same $200,000, and then that would come out to about $80 a month. Does that seem
much
more?
better.
Does that seem more comfortable for you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
I just think maybe we need some more time to think about it though, just talk it over, make sure we're doing the right thing.
Okay, and I completely understand that. I've been doing this for 8 years, a long time. I've sat with thousands of families. You're not the first people that have ever said that to me, and I completely understand. Can I tell you a little story?
Yes.
Okay, all right. When it comes down to this is a different buying situation than what most people are used to, right? Like you guys ever bought, when you guys bought this house, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know about you, but when I bought my first house, especially, I had probably visited maybe 50 houses. Like I went around every weekend with my dad and my real estate agent. We looked at places, townhouses in different areas and things like that, because I wanted to make sure I was making the right decision. Right, this is the first house I ever bought. This is huge, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, the real estate agent, when I went to those places, is trying to get me to close. Right, even if it's a crappy house, she's trying to tell me, oh, look at this. You can do this. You can upgrade, right? Because they're trying to get you to close, right?
Mhm.
Now, I assume you guys have bought cars in your life, right? Before at some point.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Nobody likes car salesmen. When you go to the nobody likes going at all. When you go there, because he's trying to close you, right? That's why he puts you in the car, because they're trying to get it. Now, I remember when I bought my first car. Again, I looked online for a couple days or a couple weeks rather, and looked at different cars. I even test drove one car before I went to the other one, just to kind of feel it out, because that's a big decision. Now, the difference between that and this is, let me ask you a question. When you guys tell that real estate agent, look, we're going to look at other houses, or you walked off the lot and told the guy, look, I need to think about this. If you didn't buy that house or you didn't buy that car, does that affect your family whatsoever that you didn't do that?
Just had to drive the old car around,
Right? Like if you die, it doesn't affect your family whatsoever. Nothing changes, right? You didn't drop $50,000 on a new house, or you didn't drop $4,000 on a down payment for a new car,
Yeah.
right? You're actually in a better situation. Now we're here doing this. You tell me you need to think about it. Cindy drives tomorrow morning, gets into a car accident and dies. What happens that you didn't purchase this plan?
I guess we just get the work thing. I mean, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably be.
What would you do?
You would be screwed.
Yeah.
To put it no other way bluntly, you would be screwed.
Mhm.
You would have to come either out of your pocket, or you go to your uncles, you go to your friends, your families. Like, is that really what you want to do? Is that really worth risking it?
No.
No, of course not. So you were born in New Jersey?
Actually, I was born in Alaska.
Okay, awesome. And if you die, your wife's gonna be the beneficiary?
Yes.
Okay, great, fantastic. You see what I did there?
Yeah.
Okay, you assume the sale. I'm not waiting for him to give me a full yes. I'm just assuming that he's gonna do it with me.
Nice.
All right.
Okay.
All right, but
Good. All right.
Did it stop?
No, unfortunately, my computer doesn't like buttons.
No.
Okay.
so you kind of gave me a